Okay, so now let's handle the borrow functions. The first borrow function is just going to be a simple one where we deposit loan collateral. Now, there should be some checks in this. For instance, you should check that the address here is not zero. You should also check that the amount here is not zero. I'm going to leave that for you and see if you can make that addition. For whichever one of you picks it up. But first thing first, deposit loan asset. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. It's good practice for me to do it as well. Required loan address is not equal to address 0. Boom. I think maybe for address 0 not allowed. Okay, then require that amount must be greater than 0, otherwise invalid amount. Okay, right. There's one thing that I want to do here. So you know that I have this interface here. So we've dealt with stable assets. Now we're dealing with volatile assets. So volatile assets all share the same interface as a stable asset, which is an ERC20. So the next thing we want to do is we want to update the state first. So let's go to the borrower state. What do we know about the borrower? Borrower info. Okay, borrower info has 1, 2, and 3. So the first thing I think that we should do is we should set the active loan count to 0 and liquidated. Actually, no, we shouldn't touch that. What we want to do is we should access this field. So we're going to do borrower.info. We're going to pass in borrower address, and then we're going to also pass in collateral address to access this field. So let's come here. Borrower info. Okay, let's do message sender, and remember that the next field, so it's like it uses 2 indexes, the first being the address of the borrower, the second being the address of the collateral taking asset. So where is it? Loan assets address, and then we want to increment it by amount. All right, but let me see. It says invalid indexed expression has to be a type. Okay, sorry. I seem to be addressing it wrongly. Just let me verify how I should access it. Borrower, okay. All right, so let me try a stepped approach. Borrower assets, okay, because that's what this field is called. So borrower assets, then because it's a mapping as well, you pass in the loan assets, and then which is an amount, and then you say amount. Okay, boom, all done. Okay, now I need to point out something. These loan assets, anyone can pass in any address here. So we need a way to verify that this loan asset is valid. Okay, so there are 2 ways to go about it. There's the way that we say okay, so let's think about it this way. Imagine that this is a pool. This contract represents a pool of acceptable assets, and those acceptable assets are going to be like loan assets. So that means we need a function somewhere, a platform function. Let me see if I can find one called set acceptable asset. Okay, function called set. No, I just don't. Function called set acceptable collateral asset. Okay, and this function is going to take in an address of a token and it's just going to be an external function. Okay, we're going to put some limitations on who can call it eventually, but we're going to keep that until towards the end when we're finalizing everything. I like making my functions open-ended, and then I add access control after, so that way it behaves. We can check the core behavior before we check the restricted behavior. So we want to be able to set absolute collateral address. We also want to be able to is acceptable collateral asset. So we want to check if a token is an acceptable one, and this is external view returns a boolean. Okay, so when we set something here, if anyone passes this, we check, okay, is it acceptable? Boom. Is it not? Okay, so we need a mapping for that in the global state. Let's do a mapping of address to address to boolean. We'll call it acceptable token, acceptable collateral tokens. Okay, all right, then let's go back to our function. First thing is we want to be able to say acceptable collateral token for, so we want to set this token. I don't know why that is showing in that way, but I'm just going to copy this like this. All right, paste it. For some weird reason it's showing in that way. Let's see, set it to true. Okay, cool. So this also means this shouldn't be address 0. By now you can see that we have a lot of address 0 checks, so we're going to have to maybe run like an internal function that does validate address. So let me just write it. I know we're writing an internal function within an internal function. We're going to separate all this maybe into a library function. Let's say validate address. Okay, so what does it do? It takes in an address of address, and then it checks internal view returns bool. So let's call it is non-zero address. Is non-zero address. Okay, so what we just do is we just say return, so that address is not equal to address 0. Okay, so if address is not equal to address 0, this returns true. If address is equal to address 0, this returns false. Okay, so let's just handle all our, so like this one that states non-zero, we just say require this non-zero address. We want asset address. Boom. So we just check that it's non-zero address. Okay, so can we still improve this? Yes, we can. This is also repeated, and I don't want to repeat myself, so I'm going to write a function called address check. Okay, what does address check do? Takes in an address of type address, an address of type address, and first it doesn't return anything. It just does require that is non-zero address. Okay, otherwise it says 0 address not allowed. Okay, good. All right, this is fixed. So now here I can just say address check, run address check for loan asset address. Done. It's cleaner this way. All right. So we're gonna obviously be using the same function. Like we're using this here and anywhere else. So like here we do address check token. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So this is how you make your code look professional and set you apart from like non-professional. Yeah. Sorry. I need to make this external or internal. Because let's make it internal. Yeah. It says this can be pure. Okay, that's fine. Let's make it pure. What does it say here? It says this can be pure, internal pure. Okay, that's fine. All right. What else do we need to do? So we've come to set. It's always good to like maybe make an event for this. So I'm just gonna put a note to do add an event. Yeah. Okay, so we've deposited, we've checked the amount. I mean, you could also likewise do something for this if you're into it. If no one does it eventually, I will do it, but it's fine. You can also do something similar for this. So we come back to borrow. So once we've updated the amounts, the next thing we want to do is we want to do the transfer. So we call IERC20 on loan. Oh wait, sorry, I forgot the reason why I created this. Yeah, the reason why I created this is to check if the collateral is acceptable. So we do return acceptable collateral token for token should be true. Okay, so obviously here if you pass in an address 0, it's always going to be false anyway. So maybe there's no need for me to check because address 0 will never be true. It will always be false. But just in case, let's just do an address check, okay? Just in case. I mean, why not, right? So return this. So we need to confirm here that the token address is an acceptable. Right, where is it called? Is acceptable collateral assets. Okay, so we need to require this to be true. So unacceptable collateral asset. Okay, boom. It says this is not yet visible. Yeah, because we use external. So let's go to the function. Let's make it public. Everyone can check this. It's fine. So now it's visible. Okay, require this. All right, done. So now let's loan asset address dot transfer from. Because we're doing a deposit, we have to do a transfer from. Because transfer from requires you to call and approve first. Yeah, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to transfer from message.sender to this address the amount. Okay, good. And obviously we need to emit an event, so let's call the event. So I'm going to create the event here and then move it up. Deposited collateral asset. Okay, and then obviously we follow our pattern. Who's the caller? Address indexed caller. Okay, we also find out where the deposit has been made, so indexed as well. Let's check address market. Okay, and the amounts. No, sorry. Okay, so caller market, we can do one more index. I think I mentioned this before. Index token. All right, and then let's call it collateral asset. Okay, and then final one is uint256 amount. Okay, now I shouldn't, obviously, our events cannot be in this place. What's the problem? Yeah, events can't be here. All right, so we need to move it up. But before we move it up, oh sorry, let's just emit, okay, so that we know what we're emitting. So what we're emitting, message.sender, sorry, we're emitting deposited collateral assets, and what's it going to be? Caller, message.sender, yeah, address indexed market, so address this, next is collateral assets, which is the loan token, loan asset address, okay, and obviously the amount. All right, so all done here. So let's just move this to the top here. All right, so we have another event. Okay, cool. So we have officially done the deposit to loan collateral. Okay, so I think we should call this collateral token address. Okay, so I'll call it collateral token address. Boom, all done. All right, so this completes this function. The next function we're going to do is the borrow function. All right, so follow me for the next video. Let's do that.